There's an unspoken pressure that comes after you lose a job, after you experience any kind of professional setback, any kind of identity disruption. The pressure to bounce back fast, the pressure to stay positive, the pressure to prove to the world, and maybe to yourself, that you're still valuable, still employable, still moving, still strong. People mean well when they say things like, "You'll land on your feet," or "Just stay busy," or "Everything happens for a reason." That sometimes what you really hear underneath all of it is, "Hurry up and get over this. Hurry up and stop feeling lost. Hurry up and stop grieving. Hurry up and be productive again. Hurry up and find a way to make this make sense." But what if you're not ready? What if the pain still lingers? What if the loss is still fresh? What if the future still feels like a fog you can't quite see through yet? Here's what no one tells you. Healing is also part of the work. Slowing down is part of the work. Feeling your feelings is part of the work. Resting when you're tired is part of the work. Grieving what you lost, not just the paycheck or the title, but the version of you that believed certain things were permanent, is part of the work. Mourning the dreams that didn't happen is part of the work. Naming the fears out loud instead of suppressing them is part of the work. Learning to sit with discomfort instead of running from it is part of the work. Rebuilding trust with yourself, trust that you can survive disappointment without abandoning who you are, is part of the work. You are not behind because you are healing. You are not lazy because you are taking time to process. You are not weak because you are tired. You are doing some of the hardest, bravest work. There is the invisible, thankless, quiet work of repairing the parts of yourself that were shaken. You are tending to wounds that no resume can list, and no recruiter will ever ask about. That will determine how you show up for every opportunity that comes next. Healing is not passive. Healing is not wasting time. Healing is the foundation for everything you will build after this, because if you rush past the healing, you carry the wound with you. You drag the resentment into your next role. You project the fear onto your next boss. You settle for less because you haven't rebuilt your sense of worth. You hustle for validation because you haven't rerouted your confidence. You keep recreating the same patterns because you haven't paused long enough to understand them. But if you stay here for a while, here in the messy middle, here in the uncomfortable now, if you let yourself heal at the speed of honesty instead of the speed of fear, you give yourself the chance to rebuild differently, stronger, softer, clearer. You give yourself the chance to move forward, not because you're running away from pain, but because you're being pulled by purpose. You give yourself the chance to enter your next chapter without dragging the heavy weight of unresolved behind you. So how do you know if you're healing? It doesn't always look like dramatic breakthroughs. Sometimes it looks like crying over something you thought you were done crying about and being kinder to yourself this time. Sometimes it looks like taking a nap instead of forcing yourself to update your resume for the 15th time today. Sometimes it looks like saying no to a job that doesn't align, even though you're scared. Sometimes it looks like telling a friend the truth when they ask how you're doing, instead of saying "I'm fine" through gritted teeth. Sometimes it looks like celebrating tiny wins, like getting out of bed when you didn't want to, like cooking yourself a meal, like applying to one role that actually feels exciting. Healing is slow. Healing is non-linear. Healing is uncomfortable, but healing is forward motion. Every small moment you choose presence over panic. Every small act of self-respect. Every small kindness you offer yourself in the midst of uncertainty. That's the work. That's the work that changes not just what you do next, but who you become next. Because you're not just looking for a new job. You're looking for a new way of being, a new way of moving through the world that dictated by fear, scarcity, or shame, a new way of defining success, self-worth, and meaning, a new way of trusting yourself to survive what breaks and still build what matters. So give yourself permission to heal. Give yourself permission to move slower than the world says. You should give yourself permission to take breaks, to feel everything, to rest without guilt. Give yourself permission to let healing be enough for today. And when the world asks, what are you doing to get back on track? You can answer not defensively, not apologetically, but truthfully. I'm doing the work that actually matters. I'm healing, and that healing, that's the soil from which everything good will grow. Healing will make your next moves more sustainable. Healing will make your next risks more courageous. Healing will make your next connections more authentic. Healing will make your next season not just bigger, but better. So trust the pace of your process. Trust the wisdom in the waiting. Trust the quiet ways your spirit is stitching itself back together. Trust that, even when it feels like you're standing still, profound things are happening beneath the surface. Trust that the strength you're building now, the strength to sit with uncertainty, to love yourself without conditions, to believe in your future without guarantees, is the kind of strength that doesn't just get you a job. It builds you a life. You are not wasting time. You are investing it. You are not falling behind. You are forging forward through terrain most people are too afraid to walk through. You are not broken. You are breaking open. And the future you are stepping into, the one built on truth instead of fear, on authenticity instead of approval, on resilience instead of rushing, that future is worth every slow, painful, sacred step you are taking right now. So, breathe, rest, heal, and when you're ready, move again. Move not because you're panicking, but because you're pulled by vision. Move not because you hate where you are, but because you're in love with where you're going. Move not because you feel forced, but because you finally feel free. This healing is not a detour. It's the path. Walk it fully. Walk it honestly. Walk it bravely. Healing is the work, and you're doing it. And it's enough, and you're enough. Always have been, always will be.